have, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get into. So, for the average person like myself who is not advanced in movement art or circus art and maybe doesn't have access to a huge amount of weights because they're in quarantine, maybe they have a pull-up bar or a few resistance bands, a couple dumbbells. What are some underrated strength exercises that that person can do in quarantine with limited equipment that can maximize efficiency? So maybe like some non-complicated exercise that the average person can do that will have a high return on strength.
Hmm. Well, there's there's a lot because there's different strength, but I mean a lot of the full body workouts
Mhm.
like you can do a deadlift with one, like let's say you don't have weights, so
Mhm.
I mean a deadlift is no longer challenging, but now you can do it with one leg, and you could grab like anything, like grab a book, like
Mhm.
grab anything heavy with the other leg, and you're literally it's gonna burn, like you're gonna,
Yeah,
and it's
so
very very efficient.
single
Yeah,
leg deadlift. I've even seen people. I just see the backpacks on your door. A lot of people will fill up backpacks with books or whatever they have in their apartment and just use that as a weight, which you can do too. You fill up your backpack.
yeah. And well, if you don't, like you said, if you do have equipment, or if you just have like some bands or a pull-up
Mhm.
bar. So if you I mean if you don't have equipment, just a push-up is great. There's also just retracting and protracting your scapula, so that
Mhm.
you can, so if you're not like really great at a push-up, you could just do that for an extended period of time, so like 30 minutes in a set, like in a circuit, so that you gain that strength to be able to do a push-up at the
Mhm.
end. So like there's always like so many different progressions to everything. If you're really really struggling on one thing, then that means that you're not doing the right progression in the exercise. And if an instructor can't instruct you to do your certain progression, you should probably get another instructor.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that would be a good way to approach it. So to complete the circuit, because we have single leg deadlifts, push-ups, and scap push-ups. What are a couple other exercises that people can add in to complete the full body circuit as an example?
There's so many band exercises that you can do. There's just pulling them aside like this. This is really
Mhm.
good for your back shoulder.
Yeah.
And then there's this one. There's one that you can always tie it up to a door or something like that.
Mhm.
There's
And
this
a and
one.
again, there's gonna be a version on YouTube where you can see Kamal demonstrating all of these. So if you're just listening to this, I'll put the YouTube link in the podcast description.
There's these. Um, let's see. The ab workouts are really amazing. Like when you're doing when you're doing not just crunches,
Mhm.
because when you're only doing crunches, you only work like really your mid
The top.
abdominal. Yeah,
Yeah.
the top and like the mid, really.
Yeah.
And if you work both sides, so you do V ups, and if you can't do this, just go like this.
You can
So
keep your hands
without your
down, yeah.
legs, yeah, keep your hands down. And if you can't do that, then just stay like this.
You can just hold it there, yeah.
Exactly, hold it. And this is really good for your handstand. If you're working on your handstand, the way that you work a handstand without like being inverted, or even just like the core stability it gets to be inverted,
Mhm.
is you lay back, you lay flat on the ground,
Mhm.
and you make sure that your lower back is touching the ground.
Mhm.
Extend your feet and extend your arms, and just flex there. Just hold it there for like a minute.
Yeah. So
That should be
you try not to arch your back up. You try to keep your lower back
exactly.
in contact with the ground.
Yeah, that'll get your like the muscle memory it takes for your core
Hmm.
to not flop basically while you're
Yeah.
inverting.
So I'll ask you a similar question for mobility. So so for the average person who is maybe sitting around for 17 hours a day at their desk, they have a normal 9 to 5 job. They're working out maybe 3 to 4 times a week with resistance or weights. What are you think 3 to 4 underrated mobility exercises? And you can present it in a circuit again too. You don't. It doesn't have to be just one part of the body.
Yeah.
That would be helpful for someone who is sedentary for a large portion of the day.
So definitely if you're a sedentary for most of the day, I would, and if you're sitting in a chair 9 to 5 or anything like that, that's really gonna hurt your posture.
Hmm.
So you want this, you don't want that. So you want to open
Hmm.
up your shoulders back.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is interlock your fingers in the back of your so
I'm doing it now
interlock
too.
your fingers, yeah, on the back, and then just bring that down and do a forward fold from there. That's like one of the most underrated and like the best thing for your posture.
Yeah.
For so this exercise, and if you can't do that, you can also just grab a rope or even just a band if you can't reach
Hmm.
and do the same thing.
Yeah. I guess you could use a towel too. Sometimes I'll use a towel to to do that exercise where you interlock your fingers.
That too, yeah.
Sometimes I'll use a towel to connect it and like pull up to connect. If you can't reach,
Nice.
you can use a band or a towel.
Nice. And for your hamstrings, I would say downward dog for like the
Hmm.
average person would be incredible. And if you want a challenge while you're in downward dog, you can always grab the opposite hand to the
Hmm.
opposite foot or the
Hmm.
hand to the opposite foot and then just add an extra stretch right there
And hold it there.
and hold it there.
And you learn that from yoga, right? Because downward dog is
Learn
from
that from
yoga.
yoga. Yeah. What I also learned from yoga is pigeon pose, which a lot of people, you said, like they don't really take care of like opening up their hips. So
Yeah.
pigeon pose really does that well. If you're listening to this, pigeon pose, just Google pigeon pose.
Yeah, yeah. This is something that I actually do every morning. A pigeon pose for a minute each side. If I go a few days without doing it, I can really feel it in my hips. Like how I'm someone that definitely is that tends more to be tighter. So
Yeah,
for me, if I don't keep a baseline stretch of 4 to 5 times a week, then I definitely feel myself tightening up. Like I can feel it the next time I do it. I'm like, wow, my hip feels tight. That's a
yeah.
good one.
There's that one, and then there's just basically it's stretching your middle split, but instead
Mm-hmm.
of that, you just cut it. So you bend at the knee
Mm-hmm.
and then just spread the knee out,
And your toes pointed outward.
and then toes pointed
Yeah.
outward. Yeah, you
And you
really
kind of just
want to
rock back and forth.
like from here.
Mm-hmm.
You can go down to here.
Gotcha.
That's really what you want. What else? What else can we do? I'd say for stretching, so like a very sedentary person. We talked about chest openers.
It could be like your average person too. It doesn't have to be like super sedentary. So just anything you think would be helpful to the average person.
Um, I mean, forward folds, like I think are one of the most underrated, like um, stretches you could possibly do,
Mm-hmm.
especially because people just do it wrong. I mean, it's not.
What do they do wrong about it?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna tell you right now. So there's a lot of technique that it just has to do with breathing. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really have to do with any of what your body is actually doing. So you take a breath and then you exhale down. You bring your chest up. You don't want to arch your back while you're doing it. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
hunch your back while you're going
Yeah.
down. So you really want to bring that chest. If this is like the most I could do today, then I'm just gonna go here and then bring my neck down.
So you want to maintain good posture while you do it. You don't want your back to curl
Exactly,
up. Okay.
exactly. So you want to keep that chest open, bring it down, and then when I can't bring it down anymore, that's when I bring my neck down, and you should feel it all the way down to the back of your
Mm-hmm.
to your lower back. So that's how you know you're stretching it right.
Yeah.
Especially don't stretch for less than 7 seconds. It really just does not do a lot for the body, especially because your body is sending pain signals to your muscles
Mm-hmm.
at first like 7 to 8 seconds or 7 to 10 seconds. I'm not really sure what this is. So you don't really get that relaxed feeling. That's why people say stretching hurts so much because they're not. I mean, yeah, it does hurt. Don't get me wrong, but it's also relaxing at the end let that if you relax into the stretch.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that yoga teaches you, and I haven't been in a consistent yoga routine for a while, but one of the things I always enjoyed about it, especially hot yoga, is that you just breathe into the stretch, or if you feel uncomfortable, don't try to ignore it, just acknowledge the discomfort and kind of breathe into it, and use it, like use your breath to go further.
Teaches you about life.